In the heart of a dense, ancient forest, there lay an isolated clearing that had long been abandoned by human footprints. It was whispered among the local townsfolk that this clearing held a dark secret, a tale of horror that was passed down from generation to generation. Few dared to venture into those woods, and fewer still dared to camp alone there, for the forest was said to be haunted by an entity that thrived on solitude and fear. One autumn, a young and adventurous soul named Emily decided to challenge the legends. Armed with a backpack filled with supplies, a sturdy tent, and a heart brimming with curiosity, she embarked on a solo camping expedition to the infamous clearing. The sun was dipping below the horizon as she arrived, casting long shadows that stretched like bony fingers across the ground. Setting up her camp, Emily tried to dismiss the unsettling feeling that had nestled in the pit of her stomach. She built a crackling fire, its flames flickering in a futile attempt to ward off the encroaching darkness. Around her, the forest seemed to close in, its ancient trees seeming to watch her every move. As night descended, the forest awoke with an eerie symphony of rustling leaves and distant animal calls. Emily sat by the fire, trying to shake off the unease that gripped her. She told herself that fear was just a product of imagination, a trick her mind was playing on her. But as the night deepened, so did her apprehension. Strange sounds began to emerge from the depths of the woods, whispers that danced on the edges of her hearing, unintelligible and unsettling. Emily strained her ears, attributing the sounds to the wind, to animals, to anything other than the chilling thought that someone, or something, might be lurking in the shadows. With a shiver running down her spine, Emily crawled into her tent, hoping to find solace in the snug enclosure. She zipped up the tent flap, cocooning herself in fabric and nylon. Inside, the forest symphony was muffled, but its eerie undertones still managed to creep in. Sleep, however, was elusive. Sometime past midnight, Emily was jolted awake by a sudden coldness that permeated the air. The fire outside had dwindled to a few smoldering embers, casting dim and grotesque shapes on the walls of her tent. She listened intently, her heart pounding like a drum. From beyond the canvas, a soft whispering emerged, as though the wind itself was trying to communicate. Her breath caught in her throat as she strained to make out the words. Alone, so alone, the voice sighed, dripping with sorrow. Emily's eyes widened in terror as the realization hit her. This was the entity, the malevolent force that haunted the forest. It fed on loneliness, on the isolation of those who dared to enter its domain. Frozen in fear, Emily listened helplessly as the voice grew louder, more insistent. Join me, it hissed, tendrils of dread snaking into her mind. Panic surged through her veins as she realized that this entity wanted to consume her, to bind her soul to its cursed existence. She fought back the urge to scream, to flee into the night, for she knew that the moment she stepped outside the tent, she would be lost. The night stretched on, an eternity of terror confined within the thin walls of her tent. As the first rays of dawn broke through the trees, the voice began to recede, fading like a nightmare upon waking. Exhausted and trembling, Emily emerged from her tent, her sanity hanging by a thread. Tearing down her camp with trembling hands, Emily fled the clearing, vowing never to return to the forest again. She had survived the night, but the horrors she had encountered had left an indelible mark on her soul. And as she left the cursed clearing behind, she couldn't shake the feeling that the entity was still there, whispering in the wind, waiting for its next victim. Years later, the townsfolk would still speak of Emily's ill-fated camping trip, a cautionary tale of the dangers that lurked in the heart of the forest. The clearing remained untouched, a testament to the darkness that dwelled within. And though Emily tried to move on with her life, the memory of that haunting night would forever cast a shadow over her every thought and every step. In the heart of autumn, as the leaves began to paint the world with shades of orange and gold, Jason found himself yearning for a moment of solitude. He had always been captivated by the allure of the wilderness and decided it was finally time to embark on a camping trip alone. Armed with his gear and a reliable SUV, he set out for a secluded spot deep within the woods. After hours of driving along winding roads and rough trails, Jason stumbled upon a clearing that seemed perfect for his solitary adventure. Tall trees surrounded the open area, their branches swaying gently in the breeze. As the sun dipped below the horizon, he set up his campsite near the edge of the woods, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation. Nightfall brought with it an eerie silence that enveloped the forest. Jason sat by his crackling campfire, its warm glow pushing back the encroaching darkness. He cooked a simple meal, enjoying the taste of solitude as much as the food. However, the rustling leaves and distant hooting of owls reminded him that he was truly alone in the wilderness. As the night wore on, Jason's initial excitement began to wane, replaced by a growing sense of unease. Every distant snap of a twig or the hushed whisper of the wind seemed to be amplified in the stillness of the night. He shook off his nervousness, attributing it to his overactive imagination. Lying in his tent, Jason tried to sleep, but the forest sounds conspired against him. He heard footsteps, almost imperceptible, circling his camp. He convinced himself it was just small animals, but then came a chilling whisper that seemed to echo in the darkness. His heart raced as he struggled to discern if it was real or a figment of his imagination. Unable to bear the uncertainty any longer, Jason unzipped his tent and shone his flashlight into the darkness. The narrow beam of light revealed nothing but trees and shadows. Just as he was about to retreat back into his tent, his flashlight flickered and died. A cold sweat formed on his brow as he fumbled for spare batteries, feeling vulnerable in the enveloping blackness. With fresh batteries, Jason's flashlight flickered back to life, and he swept the beam around the clearing. This time, he caught a glimpse of something, a fleeting shadow disappearing behind a tree. His heart pounded as he followed the direction of the shadow. He felt a mixture of fear and curiosity, unable to resist the urge to investigate further. Following the shadowy figure deeper into the woods, Jason stumbled upon an old, dilapidated cabin. Its windows were shattered, and the wooden walls grown with age. Hesitating for a moment, he summoned his courage and pushed open the creaking door. The inside was a mess of rot and decay, a forgotten remnant of the past. As he explored, a sudden gust of wind slammed the door shut behind him, leaving him in pitch darkness. Panic surged within Jason as he fumbled for his flashlight, his hands trembling. With the light piercing the darkness, he saw scratches on the cabin walls, long, deep marks that seemed almost like messages. The air grew colder, and his breath misted in front of him. A whisper surrounded him, chilling and unintelligible. He felt a presence, something watching him from the shadows. Gathering his strength, Jason rushed to the door and threw it open, the night air hitting him like a shock. He sprinted back to his campsite, his heart racing, and didn't stop until he was safely inside his tent. The rest of the night was a blur of fear and anxiety for Jason. With the first light of dawn, he wasted no time in packing up his camp and leaving the woods behind. The sense of relief was palpable as he drove away, vowing never to return to that cursed place. In the rearview mirror, he caught a glimpse of something, a shadow standing at the edge of the woods. The figure seemed to beckon, a haunting reminder of his nightmarish encounter. As he drove further away, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had stumbled upon something beyond comprehension, something that would forever haunt his memories. And so, Jason's solo camping trip, intended to be a journey of self-discovery, turned into a chilling tale of solitude, fear, and the unknown, a story he would only share in hushed tones around campfires, reminding others of the mysteries that lie in the darkness of the wilderness. In a quaint and secluded valley, nestled between towering pines and cradled by the serenity of nature, a group of 5 friends embarked on a weekend camping trip. Mark, Sarah, Chris, Emily, and Alex had been close since their college days, sharing laughter, secrets, and countless adventures. As they set up their tents on the edge of a tranquil lake, the promise of a memorable weekend was palpable in the air. The first day was a cascade of joy and camaraderie. They hiked through sun-dappled trails, swapped stories around a crackling campfire, and marveled at the star-studded sky that stretched above them like a celestial canvas. Yet, the wilderness held more than just beauty, it held secrets, too. On the second day, the group decided to explore a nearby cave, intrigued by the tales of hidden wonders whispered by the locals. Carrying lanterns and brimming with excitement, they ventured into the earth's depths. The cave's walls seemed to whisper with every step, and the air grew heavy with an almost tangible tension. Shadows danced ominously, and the sense of unease grew with every twist and turn. As they reached the heart of the cave, the lanterns flickered and dimmed, casting elongated shadows that seemed to take on a life of their own. A chilling breeze brushed against their skin, despite the cave's stagnant air. Mark, always the adventurous soul, suggested they split up to explore faster. Against their better judgment, the others agreed. Time seemed to lose its grip as they wandered deeper into the labyrinthine passages, their voices echoing through the eerie darkness. But when they finally regrouped, Mark was nowhere to be found. Panic threaded its icy fingers through their hearts, and frantic calls reverberated through the cavernous space, met only by haunting echoes. Hours passed, and desperation set in. They retraced their steps, searching every crevice and corner, their flashlights illuminating nothing but rocky walls and treacherous drops. Then, just as fear threatened to overcome them, a distant cry reached their ears, a cry that sent shivers down their spines. Following the voice, they stumbled upon Mark's limp body, sprawled at the foot of a pit. Relief surged through them, only to be replaced by fresh horror. His eyes were open, but they stared vacantly into nothingness. His skin was clammy, and his breath came in shallow gasps. It was as if he was there, yet not truly present. Their attempts to wake him were in vain, and the eerie feeling that had been lingering in the cave grew stronger. They made the harrowing decision to carry Mark back to camp, his body becoming heavier with every step. The cave seemed to taunt them as they left, its walls seeming to shift and contort as if mocking their fear. Back at camp, they huddled around their fire, trying to shake off the sense of dread that clung to them. Mark lay unconscious, his breathing slow and labored. They decided to stay awake, taking turns keeping watch over their friend and the surrounding darkness. As the night deepened, strange noises echoed through the woods, whispers that seemed to ride on the wind, rustlings that had no clear source. Each sound heightened their unease, and paranoia gnawed at the edges of their sanity. Their gazes darted nervously between the shadows, and they couldn't shake the feeling of being watched by something unseen. Morning finally broke, its weak light casting long shadows that seemed to retreat before the rising sun. Mark's condition remained unchanged, and with no way to contact the outside world, their isolation deepened. Their once close bond was strained by fear and suspicion, and a chilling realization began to take hold: they were not alone in the valley. Days blurred into nights, and the air grew thick with tension. Their supplies dwindled, and the forest seemed to close in around them, suffocating their hope. Whispers grew louder, and the shadows grew bolder. And then, as their last shreds of strength were waning, Mark's eyes snapped open. But the light in them was not the spark of life they had hoped for. It was cold, distant, and unfathomable. He rose with an unnerving grace, his movements unnatural, and fixed his gaze on each of them in turn. With a voice that seemed to weave through their minds, he spoke words that froze their blood. "You trespassed into the realm between, and now you are mine. As Mark's form dissolved into shadows, a guttural scream pierced the air, shattering the veil between the world they knew and the horrors that lay beyond. The forest itself seemed to convulse, trees contorting as if in agony, and the ground quaked beneath them. In a heart-pounding race for survival, the remaining friends fled through the woods, pursued by a malevolent force that defied comprehension. They stumbled upon the cave once more, its gaping maw doorway to both escape and the unknown. With no other choice, they plunged into its depths, the darkness swallowing them whole. What happened next remained locked within the shadows of that cursed valley. The whispers, the shadows, and the malevolent presence continued to haunt the nightmares of those who dared to remember. The group of friends, forever scarred by the horrors they had witnessed, vanished without a trace, leaving behind only the echo of their desperate cries and the enigma of the missing Mark, a chilling testament to the terror that can lurk within the heart of even the most idyllic landscapes.